Yeah.
How come we're here today, Rabbi Green?
Because I spoke to Just and he said he figured that he wasn't going to start rearranging the room till later today. So that's why we were able to hear today. But Tuesday and Wednesday assume that we'll be staying in the shul for the daf. Okay. Okay, I'm going to begin the learning sponsors and then we'll start the daf today. Okay. Right. Of learning, Bella and David Adler in memory of her father, friends of Honey Heifetz, friends of Jack Prince, friends of Sandy Davidoff, friends of Judy Cohen, friends of Dr. Ned Safransky, Gail and Leslie Kaplan in memory of their parents, friends of Linda Katz, Lee and Harvey Greenberg in memory of their parents, friends of Rochelle Ebner, Ike and Evelyn Blacher in memory of his sister, Steve and Eileen Greenberg in memory of his father, a month of learning Perry and Jill Meltzer in memory of his sister and his mother, Lee Pizer in memory of her husband, Ira Grobard in memory of his father, Stephanie Gold and Fred Mortman in memory of Bruce Deutscher's sister, Mel and Haran Haller in memory of his mother, Judy Schiff in memory of her mother, in memory of his mother and his father, Jill and Perry Meltzer in memory of her brother, Hannah and David Grunblatt in memory of her mother and his mother, Bee Pizer in memory of her mother, Bee Pizer again in memory of her stepfather, Bonnie and Mark Yedlin in memory of her mother and her father, Judy Jeremias in memory of her husband, students of Rabbi Yisrael Ed Kurtzer. Okay, 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 we have a week of learning Michael and Judith Paretsky in memory of his mother, Charlie Gelfenstein and Sam Levine in memory of Charlie's wife and Sam's sister. And today, being the 3rd of March, we have a day of learning by Sid and Sandy Goldschmidt in memory of his father, Chaver Ephraim ben Chaver Moshe Yehuda. And the Shemras have an aliyah, Frank Rafia, Veli Yeshua Shematli, and Chol B'nai Israel, a good Gebench Yar. Okay, we also would like to dedicate today's learning, as Michael and I spoke, to the Aliyat Neshama Shel Harav Moshe Nachum Ben Yerachmiel. I believe that today may be the Levaya. I have not. Yeah, you know that.
And it may be available on Zoom. That was that made
Email said. Okay.
that it may. Does anybody know how far? But Bear Lawn, is that where it's
Fair Lawn?
where I think it said Bear Lawn.
That's where the funeral is going to take
Yeah.
place.
Well, the funeral itself is the in Eretz Yisrael,
Right.
but the Spaden will be in. I think it said Bear.
It wouldn't surprise me. I think it could be that's where the son lives, since he was making all the arrangements. What? It said Teaneck Fairlawn.
But like, if I manage to get to Newark by say 3, would I get there in time?
Gonna be out of the plane.
I'm
It would be
doesn't
tight.
make sense.
It would be tight because
No, because to take the whole day and miss it.
makes sense. No, it would be tight. I used to commute for a certain shiur from where I lived in New Jersey, Freehold up to Teaneck, and depending on the traffic, it could take.
Would that close the lake?
Yeah,
It would affect you.
it did. I used to when I was observing Shiva, I would go down to the big bookstore there that had a 2 o'clock in the afternoon mincha, and I would daven mincha there.
All right.
Okay. So, gentlemen, we're going to get underway. It is a long Gemara today. We'll cover what we can. Okay. And it's as I told Ruben yesterday when I saw him in the afternoon, remember you can't have sex with your great grandmother. Okay? Okay.
Right, Sid, thank you very much. That was satisfying.
Right. Okay, so we finished. We're on really the last line of Ayin Hey Amud Beis. All right, something like that. Does that sound good? Hatam Huda B'Sreifa Aval Hacha B'Skila. Kid Ishkachan Be'imo is found with his mother. That's what we ended up with. Okay, Lamanda Mar Sreifa Hamura. According to the one, remember that was Rabbi Shimon, who said that Sreifa is more significant, okay, the high, more severe. Ikala Mifrach. It's possible to challenge this previous all the amendment. Okay, now we're on Ayin Vav Amud Aleph, the top of the Amud, and believe me, Ma Ha. Okay, Malahi, whereas regard to her relatives, Shakei Ima B'Sreifa, that you're going to say that the relations with her mother would be punishable by Sreifa. Tomar Bahuk, are you going to say with regards to his relatives, She'imo B'Skila, that relations with his mother would result in stoning, which would be the less severe, according to Rabbi Shimon. Okay? Va'od, and furthermore, who, kihi, if we're going to say that we're going to place it in context here, and we're going to say, shouldn't it be that the situation for his relatives should be similar to her relatives? Okay? Mahi lo chelkata ba ben bita le'em ima. The same way we're saying that it did not distinguish, okay, regarding his relatives, okay, regarding her daughter, okay, the mother of her mother, okay, afhu, so likewise for him, lo tachlok, you should not then make a distinguish, bo ben bito, la'em imo, okay, with regards to his daughter, or to regard to the mother of the mother of his mother, okay, which would be his grandmother. Ulamanda Amar, Skila Chamura, but according to the one who says, Rabbanan, remember that Skila is the more severe, Mehai Kusha, Lo Niduna. Okay, from this particular situation, problem we cannot derive. In other words, again, we can't use, according to Rava, we can't derive our Gezerah Shava under those circumstances. So what happens? We go on. Mahu. Okay, so what's our status here? Kalato Asura. His daughter-in-law would be forbidden. Afhi Kalata Asura. So likewise, we would say in regards to her relative, her daughter-in-law, okay, she also should be forbidden. Okay, which is not the case, right? Amar Abai says Abai as follows. Amar Kras, reciting a pasuk. Now we got a different pasuk. Eshet bincha, he, okay, the wife of your son, she, okay. Mishum bincha atamachayvo. Okay, why? Because we're saying here that it's the wife of your son that you will be liable. V'iyatamachayvo mishum eshet bana. But you are not considered liable with relations, okay, in terms of the wife of her son. Rava Amar. So Rava now says what? Bein Lamanda Amar Dun Mina Umina. Whether we take the view, says Rava, that we derive it and then derive something further from it. Okay, in that case, Bein Lamanda Amar Dun Mina Va'oke Ba'atra. Or whether we take the view that we derive something and then leave it or allow it to stay in its context. Lo Acha. We can't derive the Gezerah Shava in this case. Lamanda Amar Dun Mina Umina. According to the one who says we derive and then continue to derive. Mahu Kalato Asura. What do we mean when we say, okay, that the daughter-in-law is forbidden, and that is would be punished by stoning? Afhi. So the same should apply to regarding her relatives. Nami, thereto Kalata Asura. That again, we should say that her daughter-in-law also would be punished relations with it was forbidden and punished by stoning. Umina, okay, and then we would derive from that mahu beskila. What about the fact that we have a punishment of skila? He nami beskila. Shouldn't her punishment with relations with her also be determined punishable by skila?
Marry her
Right? Lamanda mar skila chamura. And according to the one that said that the Rabbanan that skila is more okay, the most severe penalty. Ikela mifrach. Here too, again, I could challenge and present the following, namely, ma lahu shekain imo beskila. Whereas for him, okay, the punishment with the relations with his mother would be skila. Tomar bahi. Are you going to say that with regards to her, she'ima b'sreifa, that her mother would be punished? I'm going to put in parentheses only by sreifa? Question mark. Va'od, and furthermore, bita b'sreifa v'kalata b'skila. Are you going to say that relations with the daughter would be punished only by burning, but with a daughter-in-law, it's going to be punished by skila? That just doesn't make sense. Okay, because why give the more severe punishment to the more distant relative? That's the point. Hu ba'atzmo yachiach. No, says the Gemara. It in itself is going to bring the proof. Why? The bito b'sreifa, that relations with the daughter, with his daughter, is punishable by burning. V'kalato b'skila, but with relations with his daughter-in-law, it would be skila. Ella, rather, says the Gemara, mahu lo chalakta bo, but rather, whereas here, regarding his relations, you did not distinguish, bein imo lekalato, between his mother and his daughter-in-law, afhui, also regarding her relatives, lo tachlok, you do not distinguish, ba, with regards to her, bein imah lekalata, regarding her mother or her daughter-in-law. Ulaman damar sreifa chamura. And according to the one who says that the burning, okay, is more stringent, mahai kusha lo nidunin. Again, we would say from this challenge, okay, again, we cannot derive our gezerah shava. Ulaman damar dun mina okay ba'atra. And according to the one who says that we derive and then place it in context, what do we say? Mahu kalato asura, the same way his relative, namely his daughter-in-law, is forbidden. Afhi kalata asura. So likewise for her relative, her daughter-in-law, is going to, okay, would be forbidden. Okay, va'oke ba'atra, and we place it in the context, hatam there, hubiskila, that with regards to him, okay, his relative, the punishment would be stoning. Aval hacha, but here, okay, b'sreifa, where the punishment with her would be lesser, would be sreifa, right? What happens? To ishkachan be'ima, like we find regarding, okay, the situation with her mother. So what happens, says the Gemara? Laman da'amar skila chamura lemifrach. According to the one who, again, the Rabbanan, who say that skila is the most severe, again, we could tear it apart, take it down. Ma lahu shekeni mom skila. Whereas with regards to relatives of his, we would say, for example, his mother, the punishment is skila. Arbahi, are you going to say that with regards to her, namely she'ima with her mother, the sreifa, it would only be again with sreifa, va'od, and furthermore, we would challenge mahu kalakta bo bein bito lekalato. Whereas for him, you made a distinction, you distinguish between, okay, his daughter and his daughter-in-law. Afhi, so likewise for her, tachlok ba bein bita lekalata. So you should also make a distinction, make it distinguish between her daughter and kalata and her daughter-in-law, okay, which is not the plain case. Okay, we're there in the middle now, the Amud. Ulamam damar nami sreifa chamura. And also we might say regarding Rabbi Shimon, who says that sreifa is the more stringent. Mai kusha lo nedinun. Okay, from again, mehai kusha, from this challenge, again, we cannot make our derivative of the Gezerah Shavah. So what happens? We now are going to get to a different topic, still within the same broad area, but now a different situation. We're talking about the daughter, okay, of a woman who was raped by the man.
Rape,
Okay,
victim,
okay, and what happens is then he has relations with a girl that really is still his daughter. Okay, that's bito me anusato minayin. How do we know then that there is a prohibition and a punishment, okay, in having relations with his daughter from a woman that he raped? Okay, all right. Ha'amar Abai. And Abai gives the following attempt at an explanation. Kal v'chomer. I'm going to use a kal v'chomer. He says, al bat bito anush, in regards to the daughter of his daughter, knows his granddaughter, where there's punishment. Al bito lo kol shekain. Then, if you're saying on his granddaughter there's going to be punishment, how much more so, okay, on a woman with relations with a daughter that's his own daughter, regardless of the fact that he had raped. Okay, so what happens? V'chi onshin min hadin, asks the Gemara. Is it possible that we'll use a kal v'chomer simply as a means to give punishment and a death penalty? Okay, galui milta ba'almahu. No, this is indeed something that is understood. It's a revealed situation. Okay.
patently obvious.
Okay. Rabba Amar, says Rabba as follows. Amarli Rabbi Yitzchak bar Avdimi. So Rabbi Yitzchak ben Avdimi basically explained it to me. Again, here we'll have the double Gezerah Shavah. Okay? Achak Hena Hena. We come from one verse to another, Hena Hena, and then we come again, Acha Zima Zima. Then we come again from the Gezerah Shavah that we were using a lot yesterday, based on Zima. Tani Avuha de Rabbi Avi. Now we have an alternative attempt to explain, give an answer to Bitome Anusato. Okay? Says Avuha de Rabbi Avin, the father of Rabbi Avin, Lafi Shalo Lamadnu Labito Me Anusato. Since we did not learn, and as we didn't have a specific pasuk that, okay, or a text that gives us an answer to this particular phenomenon, okay, what happens? All right? Hutzrach hakatuv lomar. Therefore, it was necessary to bring in another pasuk, okay? All right? It says as follows, Ubat ish kohen. I'm going to bring in an example using the model of the daughter of a kohen.
And the word ish there is
Okay, and so what's going to happen? A ma bat kohen he b'sreifa. The same way that when the daughter of a kohen involves in herself in zima, okay, what happens? Not only does she embarrass the family and her father in particular, okay, but the punishment is sreifa. Ve'ein bo Allah b'sreifa. But her paramour is not going to be punished with sreifa. He gets chenek. That's what he gets. Af bito. So likewise, bito me anusato. His daughter through a woman that he raped, he b'sreifa. She also would get the punishment of sreifa. Ve'ein bo Allah b'sreifa. But her paramour would not, in other words, the father would appear, would not get sreifa. That's right. That was Avua de Rabbi Abi. Amar Abai. His Abai responds, Amar Kra. But what about the pasuk that says, part of that pasuk that we said, Ubat Ish Kohen, at Aviha hi mechalelet. Okay, that she is desecrating and disgracing her family, and particularly her father. Misha mechalelet. Okay, one that gets disgraced. Who is it? Et aviha. It's particularly her father. Yatztazo she'aviha me'achalelet. Okay, and therefore we exclude the fact here that in that case her father is
the one who
is
creates the embarrassment.
is the one who brings the disgrace on the family, not her. So what happens? Rava Amar. Rava doesn't like either of Abaye or Avu the Rabbi Avin's explanations, and he comes forward with his own. Rava Amar. Bishlema hatam afikte medina de bat kohen. That's understandable there in that case where we would derive it out of the law vis-a-vis the daughter of a kohen. V'okimta adina de bat Yisrael, and therefore I might be able to apply it to the situation of the daughter of an Israelite. Okay, where in our case it's the case of the father. Okay, who has relations with the daughter of the raped woman. Okay, since he's bringing the embarrassment, the disparaging. Hacha, but here in our particular case, okay, adina demand mukmementle. Is it possible that you're going to establish the case, okay, based around her? Adina de pnuya mokemetle. Don't we say that we're basing this on a case of a woman who's single? All right. Therefore, hazara labito me'imuna sato aminayin. If that's going to be the scenario that we're describing, where is the warning that people are going to get
Because the
punished?
last Kohen is an abuser.
Right. So what happens? Bishlema la'abai v'rava. That's understandable if we accept that it's okay, the unique case of the Pnuya versus the Bas Kohen and her particular status. Okay, mehacha de nafka laho onish. On what basis then do we derive a punishment? Mehatam, from there, nafka laho hazhara. Elsewhere, okay, in our case, right, from there, we do have a warning. Okay, right, that's the case. Ella l'dikitatani, avuha the Rabbi Avin. But what about what was taught by the view of the father of Rabbi Avin? Mai, what's its status? Amar Rabbi Ilah, says Rabbi Ilah, Amar Kra, based on a pasuk. And we have a pasuk that says, Al tichalel et bitcha lahaznota. Okay, don't desecrate your daughter. Okay, allowing her to perform lewd and etc. acts. Okay, that's the word I forgot. Okay, matkif. But we challenge that statement, the use of that pasuk. Okay, because we're going to bring another braita. Matkif la. We challenge Rabbi Yaakov. It was challenged by Rabbi Yaakov Achva, the Rabbi Acha Bar Yaakov, who was the brother of Rabbi Acha Bar Yaakov. That pasuk, Hai al techalel et bitcha lahasnota. I need that pasuk for something else, namely what lahachi huda'ata. For this reason is what I use that pasuk, because it comes to tell me the following: Hai mi baile l'kedatanya. I need it to be able to be a base for the following braita. Al techalel et bitcha lahaznota. Don't desecrate your daughter, allowing her to do lewd, lascivious things. Yachol b'kohen hamasi et bito l'levi v'Yisrael. It's possible that I could use that to describe the situation of a Kohen who allows her daughter to marry, okay, his daughter, I'm saying, allowed his daughter to marry a Levi or an Israelite. In other words, that he's not keeping it in the Kohanim status, okay? Diktuv hakatuv medaber. And here we see the text telling us, Talmud lomar lahasnota. How can you call, let's say, a different status marriage, an example of zima, of lascivious, lewd behavior? So he says, okay, what happens? Bechilu shebeznut hakatuv medaber. The pasuk specifically tells us we're talking about immoral sexual behavior. Okay, What are we talking about? Hold on, says the Gemara. B'moser et bito shelo l'shem ishut. Okay, that he is not delivering his daughter for a situation where she could be married. Okay. Well, that was one explanation. A different explanation was what he's doing is he's keeping her from being married so he can have her for domestic purposes.
No. Here it's
I know. I'm just trying to clean it up a little. Okay. Okay. No, I'm just citing a different shot. Okay. Imkain. If that's the case, lemakra. So the Gemara says, hold on a second. We're not referring that. Why then? What is the fact that the language of the pasuk says lo techalel? Otherwise, it would have been sufficient lemakra al tachel. Okay, right. So what happens? We've got this double lamed there. What does that tell us? My al techalel. Why is that the lashon, the language of the Gemara of the pasuk? Shma mina tarte. We learn both of these things. Now, going on. Vabai varaba. How are we doing? Okay. Hi al techalel et bitcha lahasnota. Taking this same pasuk. Ma yavdele. What do they do with it? Amar Rabbi Mini. There's Rabbi Mini. Mani. Zeh hamasi et bito lezakein. That's the example of one who's giving his young daughter to marry an older person.
But he's rich.
Well, we don't know that. Kidatanya, how do we know that? Al tichalel et bitcha lahaznota, because it says clearly, don't allow your daughter, demean your daughter, okay, for sexual purposes. Rabbi Eliezer says, Omer, zehamasi et bitolik is zaken. It could be also that he says it's one marrying his daughter, okay, in that manner. Rabbi Akiva says, whoa, zehamash bito bogeret. No, it's one who holds his adult daughter from marrying. That's the problem. Okay. Anyway, Amar Rav Kahana, says Rav Kahana, Mishum Rabbi Akiva, in the name of Rabbi Akiva, Ein lecha ani b'Yisrael, ela rasha arum. You have no one more wicked in Israel than a poor man who is a clever, wicked person. Why? Havahamasher bito bogeret. He delays or puts off his adult daughter from being married. Atu hamasheh bito bogeret lav rasha arumhu. Since why then do we imply that one who delays his adult daughter from marrying that he's wickedly clever? Okay. Amar Abai is why is he a scheming evildoer? Says another shot. Okay, what? As we jump along, right? Hachikama. This is what we're saying. Ezahu ani rasha arum. What is the kind of person that is a cleverly wicked person? Zeh hamasher bitoch bogeret. It's one who's delaying his adult daughter from marriage, and here it's for domestic work. Va'amar Rav Kahana. And says Rav Kahana Bishum Rabbi Akiva, in the name of Rabbi Akiva. In other words, he's doing it for his own personal interests. Have zahir min hayuatzchach lefi darko. Be careful with anyone, okay, whose dealings you have are doing it only out of their own personal interest. Okay? Amar Rav Yehuda, says Rav Yehuda, Amar Rav, in the name of Rav. Hamasiyat bito lezarkein. One who marries off his young daughter to an elderly individual, v'hamasi isha libno katan, or who marries his daughter to a minor.
Who marries his 7-year-old son.
Well, who marries his daughter to a minor. That's the point. V'hamachazir aveda lekuti, or who returns a lost object to a Kuthian. I love hakatuv omer. About him, what text tells us, Laman tzvot harava et hatzme'a lo yaveh Hashem soloach lo. Okay, right? Well, I shall, what? Right? I shall bless himself in his heart, saying, I shall have peace, though I walk in the imagination of mine heart. To add drunkenness and thirst, the Lord will not spare. That's a type. Metive. Right, right. Okay. In other words, all he has is his own interests and Metive. We'll challenge this with the following Braita. Hahoev et ishto kegufo. Okay, and everybody should take this piece of Braita to heart. Okay, one who loves his wife as himself. V'hamechabda yoter migufo, but honors her more than himself. V'hamadrich banav u'bnotav b'derech yeshara, and directs his sons and his daughters in the proper manner, in the right way. Okay, v'hamashiin samuch lepirkin, and marries them off. I'm going to translate it for the moment, at the appropriate time, appropriate age. Okay, which the Gemara is later going to talk about. Okay, in just a second. Okay, at just a moment. Okay, what do we mean by the appropriate age? Okay, alav hakatuv omer, says the Katuv, v'yadata ki shalom o halecha upakarata nuch v'lo tichteh. What do we mean? So the Gemara is going to ask then, samuch lepirkin shani. When we say that they marry at appropriate age, it means at the age where they're beginning to reach close to or about puberty. That's the point. Tanu Rabbana.
They won't fool around.
Okay.
with
The
Would
idea.
it be also when a person wants to get married, insists on being married now?
Okay,
Kids marry when the parents tell them.
Okay.
Maybe in your world.
Okay. No. Think of the following. No. Think of the following. Okay. Why marry a young person as they approach the beginning of their realization of puberty and awareness of sexuality? Okay, is so that their physical maturity and the would be structured within the proper context of having some marital situation.
But they have to make a living.
That's what you think now.
They
Okay.
can be farmers.
A 6-year-old.
Okay.
No, the point is that when you reach puberty, your hormones take over.
The hormones
and
kick in.
You'll be prone to seek an outlet. If you're married, then it'll be an appropriate
But that's a
outlet.
2020.
That's the Gemara's perspective.
But today it's a 2020.
Excuse me, when God gave, well, first of all, my grandchildren did get married till a little older. But the Torah is saying you're much safer being married than going to college and fooling around with girls in a sorority house.
In order to keep them from fooling around.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go on, gentlemen. We'll talk about that later. Tana Rabbanan, a new Braita. Ha'ohev et shchinav, one who loves his neighbors. V'amekarev et krov, and brings his family, his relatives close. V'anoseh et bat achoto, and one who marries his niece. Okay, keep that phrase in mind because that
did it.
exactly because Chazal almost set that up as a model, right? As a model, and we find that continued not simply in Chazal, but the concept, okay, even continued sometimes into the Middle Ages.
My best friend's son married his niece.
So did Rabbi Yossi Aglili, and it was a disaster.
Well,
That's what the Gemara says, but that's another story.
okay, all right.
Well, you didn't have to live with Rabbi Yossi.
Right?
I
Okay.
knew Rabbi Yossi.
Good for you.
And you're no Rabbi Yossi.
All right.
I'm close to
All right. All right. Bahamalves ani, and one who loans a coin, a certain amount of money to the poor. Okay. Bishas dochako, at the time of extreme need. Alav hakatuv omer, about him the Torah says, Az tikra v'Hashem ya'aneh. He
Beautiful.
calls out and Hashem will answer.
Give tzedakah before you pray.
Right.
Unlike
Tana-
the sign on.
Okay, Tanu Rabbanan, a new Braita. Oto ve'et hen. We come back to our original discussion okay, of the various of our Mishnah and what it was talking about in terms of which parts of the family would be prohibited for having relations. Okay, all right. So that happens. From this is from again, again from what we read yesterday from the same parak. Okay, a different passage. Okay. Oto ve'et. Okay, it says him. Ve'et echat mehen, and one of them, divrei Rabbi Yishmael. Okay, so according to Rabbi Yishmael, okay, the punishment might be 1 and 1. Okay, Rabbi Akiva Omer, so Rabbi Oto ve'et shtehen, one, him, and 2 of them. Okay, my banaihu. What's the difference between Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Yishmael here? Amar Abai, says Abai, mashma'ut dorshin. They are trying to determine, they're expounding the pasuk and what its relevance and meaning is. Ika benaihu. That's the difference between them. Okay, right? Rabbi Yishmael Savar, Rabbi Yishmael is of the opinion, Oto ve'eten, okay, that when we have that phrase in the pasuk, Oto ve'et echat mehen, it was him, he would be, and one of the ladies. Shekain belashon Yevani, korin le'achat hena, because in the Greek language we say use the number for the word one, we use hen. Okay, so right, so here he could still use his gezerah shel. Ve'im chamato, okay, and regarding any punishment for his mother-in-law, midrasha acha, that would be based on a gezerah shava from the word zima. So that's a drasha. Rabbi Akiva, however, savar, he's of the opinion, oto ve'et hen, the same words, the him and those, oto ve'et shtehen, him and the 2 of them. Ve'im chamoto, hachab ktiva, ve'em chamoto, the mother of his mother-in-law is actually spelled out and included in the pasuk. Okay, Rava Amar, says Rava with the following, chamoto la'achar mita ika benaihu. No, Rava says, no, the argument here is really about having relations with his mother-in-law after the death of his wife. That's his view. Rabbi Yishmael Savar, chamoto la'achar mita b'sreifa. Why? Because he argues, says Rava, Rabbi Yishmael would say of the opinion that such relations, okay, would be punishable by sreifa. For Rabbi Akiva Savar, he holds Isura Ba'alma. It's simply a regular lav, and that's the case. Okay, we go on with our new Mishnah. We did Skila, now have finished Sreifa, and now we're getting to, okay, all right, the next example. Okay, so now what happens? Ve'elu haneharagim. These are the ones who lose their head. Okay, over the. Okay, well, we don't know. Vaharotseach. So we start off. Okay, a murderer. Number 2. Va'anshe ir hanidachet. People who are involved in a majority of people involved in the idol worship from a community. Rotseach shehika et re'ehu ba'evan. When we're talking about a murderer, we're going to further define it. Why? Because he has struck his fellow either with a stone or with a barzel, a piece of metal. Okay? Now, what happens? Another example, the kavash alav letoch hamayim, or he's held him down underwater, or letocha or he's held him down in a fire. Ve'eno yachol la'alot misham umeit, and the individual being attacked cannot get up and therefore dies. As a result, the person who committed the act is liable. However, goes on the Mishnah, dachafu letoch hamayim, if he pushed him in the water, or letocha or pushed him in the fire, v'yachol la'alot misham, and he's able to get up out of there, umeit, and he dies afterwards. Okay, patur. The person who did the pushing is exempt. Okay, so watch out if somebody pushes you in the pool.
You betcha.
Okay, okay, what happens now?
Rabbi,
Let's.
because it's only a drum.
Okay, it's secondhand, so to speak. She saw. Okay, one who incited bo et a kelep, or he incites a dog to sticks a dog. She saw bo et a nachash. He incites a snake to attack. Patur. Okay, is exempt. Heshich bo et a nachash. He arranged so that the snake actually bit the guy. Okay, all right. Rabbi Yehuda, it was probably a poisonous snake too.
Yeah.
Okay, Rabbi Yehuda mechayev. Rabbi Yehuda says he is liable. V'chachamim potrin, but the sages say he's exempt. Now, I didn't say that. He could not be held liable for that particular punishment of Sayef. Okay, that doesn't mean he's going to be exempt.
No,
It's
he would have
chayav
to
dinei
pay the
shamayim.
family.
Why is it so important for the Torah to differentiate over
Because
the
it's a
four
grump.
different ways?
Again, because we always saw way back earlier that our attempt was to find an out, not to have to punish the person with a death.
It's hard
Okay,
for-
that's the point.
Why the different death penalties for the specific things?
Because some of the ones are spelled out in the Torah specifically. We saw yesterday, the pasuk specifically said in regards to sexual impropriety with certain women, those were arayos, and therefore the punishment was shreif. All right. Okay, let's go on,
Talk to me
gentlemen.
later.
And in a little time that we've got left, okay? Amar Shmuel. Shmuel is going to ask a question. When the Mishnah made a condition and said that he hit the person with a stone or with a piece of metal, okay? Well, right? What happened? In other words, he was either held it or threw it or whatever. So what happens? Amar Shmuel asks the question on our Mishnah. Mipnei ma lo ne'emra yad bebarzel. Why didn't we use the language, particularly of the hand, regarding an iron implement? Shahabarzel may meet bechol shehu. Because any kind of use of an iron implement is going to cause death.
Any
That's
piercing,
okay.
not any kind of use. Any piercing. If I hit you over the head with a safety pin,
No,
it's
no.
not gonna
We're
hurt
not
you.
we're not
But if
talking
I
an
pierce your
iron
heart
implement.
with the
We're not
safety
talking
pin-
a safety pin. We're talking a
No,
stickle
we are-
iron.
We're talking about a very small.
No,
pointed-
no, I disagree. Disagree. I'll look at Rashi later.
It also says
Okay,
in the pasuk
okay.
V'yikro.
Okay, Tanya Nami Hachi. And we have a Breita. Okay, Rabbi Omer says Rabbi, Galui v'yadu lefnei misha amar v'haya olam. It's known before the Kadosh Baruch Hu. Shehabarzel may meet b'chol shehu. That an iron implement is going to kill regardless. Lefichach lo nitna Torah bo shiur. And that's the reason that the Torah did not give a measurement. That's why I disagree with Rashi there. Pardon Rashi. Vahani mili, okay, debarze mebazre. And we're talking clearly, then the Mishnah says about pieces, okay, where there we're talking about where the person gets pierced in an organ. That comes afterwards. Okay, and that's how. So the argument then is even with a smaller item of metal, if it pierces a serious organ, that's going to result in
With
death.
regard to stones, the Besdin would have to make an evaluation that is that rock big enough to cause death
Death.
in most cases when you hit him with a certain amount
You
of force.
pierce somebody.
If you were to throw a pebble at me and kill me, I wouldn't be able to interrupt anymore, but would.
Use a slingshot.
Discover a sword that you pierce somebody.
Doesn't mean necessarily mean a sword. Could be a sword, could be a spear,
Any metal,
could be a
any metal.
piece of serious metal. Okay.
You stick a
Okay.
pin into my heart,
Yes, David.
a bullet.
this might say that if someone attacks someone, that's when he's fine. If he attacks somebody,
Right.
something that is not necessary, but it happens to kill him,
Then it's cut. Correct.
Theoretically.
But it's interesting that a small piece of metal, a bullet.
Yeah, but if that BB hits the person in the eye,
Yeah, but he would
a
still
different
be putter
situation.
because that is not the normal result.
well, that's
That's
a
the
separate
dilemma.
issue. Kamash Malan comes with each. All right, so what happens? We get to the next piece. V'kavash alav letoch hamayim, and he pushes him into the water. Okay, so the Gemara goes on. Reisha rabuta kamash malan. Okay, the first part of our Mishnah is significant in regards to what it teaches. The Sefer rabuta kamash malan, and the end part of our Mishnah is significant in what it comes to teach us. Namely, Reisha rabuta kamash malan. The first part of the Mishnah is significant in what it teaches. Afalgav dalav ihu dachvu kevan de'ein yachol alot misham umeit chayav. Why is it significant? Because it says when he pushes him in, since he's not able to get up and leave it and dies, that's why he's liable. That's
You
enough.
have to hold
Right. You have to push him on. Seifa Rabuta Kamash Malan. The end of our Mishnah is significant. Why? Afalgad dachvo. Even though he pushes him. Kevandi yachol alot misham umei. Since he is able to get up out of there and dies afterwards, patur, he is exempt. However, the Mishnah goes on. Kavash, when we say kavash, that he holds him down, minalan, on what basis? Amar Shmuel da Amar Kra, saying that it's based on a pasuk. O be'eva l'rabot et hamitzamtzem. Okay, we're talking about an act of enmity or confining the person in such a manner. Hahu gavra. We have a story now to clarify. Okay. Let me go just a little bit more. Hahu gavra. There was a situation where a person demitzam tzema lechayota. That what did he do? He confined an animal of his neighbor, the chavre, b'shimsha, in during daylight when there was a lot of sun, and the animal died. Ravina mechayev. Ravina says the person is liable. Rav Achabar Av says he is patur. He is exempt. And we'll stop right there as then the Gemara goes on to tell us what's the rationale that each gives.
Well done. Very well done. But according to the person who says egg roll really is an egg roll, he shouldn't be chayav for anything. What can an egg roll do? That's my interpretation of the egg roll. It's a joke.
Yesterday in the Mishnah, somebody denied that we owed you money. That's a
If one acknowledges that they owe, then they are exempt from paying the fine. It doesn't mean they're exempt from paying the compensation. No. Because that's what the whole case would be based on. Okay, if I gave you $100 and then the Mishnah yesterday went back and said, we owe you 50, then you have to take it. That's the whole issue.